Hello there folks, I'm Dan Brown from a sort of interesting life.com. You're joining me on board good old Narrowboat Tilly for Dan's Ultimate Boat Basics, and today we're going to talk about the general rules and general etiquette of how you should act in various situations on the canal. So I want to try and keep this as a short rapid fire video. We'll dive straight into the absolute two basic things. Firstly, if you're boating down the canal and you see a boat heading up towards you, then the first thing you want to do is think about starting to slow down before you actually reach side by side of that boat. And you also want to move over and pass on the right hand side, which seems strange to many people in the UK as it's the opposite way around to how the oncoming traffic passes you when you're on the roads over here. So that's the first thing, pass on the right, but of course there might be situations if the canal's going to be too narrow for two boats to go too wide down, that you might want to slow down and come to a stop earlier and let them pass, or they might know that there's underwater obstructions or something, so rather than force you onto those they might stop. And basically treat every situation as an individual case and do what you think is best, basically. Now on top of that, in terms of general boating and basics, if you come up to moored boats then you definitely want to slow down, and this is probably the most complained about thing on the canal by miles, that the amount of boats that zip past and you leave you with the Captain Jack Sparrow high seas effect of rocking around everywhere. And I've certainly lost a few glasses over the years as I've opened the cupboard door and everything's fallen over and come out. Oh, anyway, we won't get drawn into that, but basically when you come up to moored boats, you don't want to slow down when you get to the boat because it's too late. The momentum of the boat through the water is just going to keep you going for all intents and purposes over the next however many feet at that speed. You want to slow down and be slower, well before you actually reach the first part of that boat that you're passing, rather than go, right, we're at the side of this boat now, right, let's go into neutral, because that's too late. It's already happened at that point. So slow down and pass on the right. Those are two excellent bits of advice where possible. Equally though, if you're passing boats and it's high winds, then you might not want to be boating in extreme wind conditions to begin with, but you might actually need to put your foot down a little bit more just to stop the boat being blown into those boats as you pass. But that's all for another video and another time. But don't boat in the high winds if you can avoid it, I'll say that. Equally, as this video's 2.5 minutes, I can sneak a few more little tips in here. So the next things, if you reach a bridge, for example, and there's obviously on these rural canals with these little old humpback bridges, you can only get one boat at a time through a lot of these bridges. So if there's one boat arriving clearly before the other boat coming towards it, then that boat just goes through. But if there's two boats arriving at the bridge at practically the same time, and if it's a blind corner, because there are bridges where you can't really see what's on the other side until you're practically through the bridge, unfortunately, you might want to give a quick honk of your horn as you approach it if you've got a horn on board. But what I've been told, and what I've always known as for like the last 4 years or so on Tilly, and it might just be something that's based around the Llangollen Canal because of how busy it gets and how many holiday boats there are over the summer, that hire boat companies say this to people as a general thing, so everyone's operating under the same pretenses up on here on the canal. There's some people haven't heard this rule, but who knows. Anyway, if two boats actually turn up at the same time, what I've been told and what I always operate by is that the boat that's coming downstream with the flow of water takes precedence over the boat that's coming upstream. So whether that's a widely accepted thing or not, that's what I've heard of many people around this area, and all of practically every person who's ever said it to me in terms of hire boating has always said that that's what they've been told. So that's what some people think, at least, and I think it's a good rule, and if everybody goes off the same page then it's very handy, but who knows. So that's another tip. Equally, if you arrive at a tunnel or a feature like that and there's boats coming up towards you, then obviously do not enter that tunnel until it is definitely clear. But this is one of the things that's a little bit trickier because of the large distance that tunnels can go underground. I mean, even Chirk Tunnel is a good sort of 5-10 minute walk through, I suppose. So it's very difficult to, if you're a solo boater, to go, is there anyone coming? No, definitely isn't. Is there anybody about to come out and go straight into it as we enter it? Oh, I can't really see that far. So it's just a case of going, is that tunnel empty? Is there anybody looking like they're approaching the entry of the tunnel, but not yet there? And then going, right, I'm going now because the tunnel's empty and there's nobody in it. But again, it's that tricky thing of, if two of you start to move towards the tunnel, then maybe one of you will flash your lights to say, come down, or something of that nature. But really, the important thing is never go into a tunnel with a boat coming towards you. And if you're following a boat through a tunnel, then don't get too close to that boat either, because if they have problems or any particular thing happens, you don't want to be in the pitch black, lighting them up and dazzling them with your light from behind, and then just basically, if they've stopped for any reason, going straight into the back of them in the middle of a tunnel underground. As I can imagine, that's not the nicest of experience. Right, I think we'll wrap things up there at that simple level of the very basics of boating etiquette, rather than get too detailed, as I wanted this to be a much shorter video than it is. So, on that note, I'll say, please do check out my other videos. There's loads more boating over on the YouTube channel. Please do consider checking out my short boat life books for the Kindle too. Find loads of boaty links in the description. But until the next time, keep it boatworthy, have a fantastic day, and farewell.